that focus on really accomplishing your dreams and accomplishing your goals and building a bigger future for yourself, we're not taught that stuff. So having an expert and having somebody to guide you through that stuff is quite valuable.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode 40 of the Steel Entrepreneur Show. My name is Adam Steele and I have Jay, I knew I was going to screw this up, Jay Gangnes. Jay specializes in corporate tax planning, high net worth personal estate planning. His job is to increase your wealth and minimize the tax you pay while creating greater financial security and stability. Jay owns a top-producing, award-winning financial planning firm here in Vancouver, British Columbia. That's in Canada, for those of you in the United States. He's a new father, an entrepreneur, and a constant learner. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. Happy to be here.
I like to start these out, I always start out by explaining you as I've come to know you, and quite honestly, just sort of based on my own research. But how would you describe yourself, sir?
Well, I think that definitely an entrepreneur would be the number one focus for me.
Always,
yeah, always an entrepreneur from even before I became an independent financial advisor. Mm-hmm. As a kid, was always looking for different opportunities, different ways to create value for people and to make money, of course.
Yeah.
And at this point, really just focused on growth and focused on family, of course, my new son. And
6 months, yeah?
6 months, yeah. And enjoying, creating things in the world.
Cool. Tell me a little bit about your business. I mean, I kind of touched on it, but I'm sure you'll do a much better job than I would.
So I'm a certified financial planner.
Yeah.
My focus is very much on high net worth tax and estate planning, with a focus on minimizing tax, maximizing the estate. And really what we do is we run clients through a high level planning process that focuses on not just rate of return. So I mean, we're not just focusing on, you're getting 8, we can get you 9. Mm-hmm. We're focused on creating value from the planning aspect and the planning landscape, and taking advantage of the tax planning component as opposed to simply that rate of return or lower fee side of the business.
Interesting. I'm trying to think of my experiences with individuals like yourself. Probably much lesser individuals, I should say, but smart individuals nonetheless. And I remember much of our focus indeed was on that rate of return. It was like, and when we were shopping around, it was, okay, who's going to offer us the highest sort of rate of return on what we were doing? And I don't remember there wasn't ever too much of a conversation on, well, how is this going to fit your lifestyle? How is this going to fit your current setup? Be it, are you a business owner? Are you incorporated? Do you have a family? Do you have a mortgage? How much is that mortgage worth? So on and so forth. Is that kind of what you sort of get into?
Yeah, I mean, our focus is much more driven by ensuring clients accomplish those goals, leaving a lasting legacy. And a huge component of that is tax planning. I mean, the number one expense that everybody pays here that they probably don't realize is taxes. I mean, tax is a huge component of those monthly expenses, but oftentimes they're seen on the back end, mm-hmm. When people do their taxes as opposed to month. So we look at that, at everything that we do as pre-tax. So, in order to have, $50,000, you have to earn $75,000, and we look at how we can integrate that corporate structure that you're paying only 13.5%. But the starting point of that is really focusing on your goals, focusing on your dreams, focusing on what you're truly trying to accomplish in your life, and then how can we integrate a high level of planning to accomplish that, as opposed to simply, let's get you a higher rate of return. Because I mean, the benefits of the tax planning can be up in the 30-40% side of the benefit, as opposed to 0.5% or 1% higher rate of return. of course, we always want to get you that highest rate of return possible, but I mean, there's 6,000 mutual funds, there's I don't know how many thousand ETFs available now, so finding clarity and confidence within that marketplace is definitely a significant value add that we provide above and beyond just, fees and rate of return.
How do you know when, let's say, how would I know that I was sort of ready for this step? Let's say I own a business, it's incorporated, we're making good money, I'm looking at, starting a family, let's say I have a mortgage. What are sort of the boxes that I should be checking, or the things that I should be thinking about before approaching an individual like yourself, or perhaps somebody who doesn't necessarily work with, just or high net worth individuals, but when should that start? When should I start thinking about that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that really day one, once you start working and start earning income, having
day one,
like out of university, looking
really?
at getting into the job world and looking at supporting those goals and really what you're trying to accomplish. A lot of times in that landscape, the focus is more on I want to buy a house, or you want to start a family, or you want to grow your career, those types of things. But I mean, there's a huge disconnect between the access to planning and that side of and that age group, as opposed to what the banks oftentimes are going to offer, right? So RSPs are a really good example.
Yeah. TFSAs, stuff like that. That's what they're going to offer you. Mutual funds.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for a younger individual, somebody early 20s, let's say, they're out of school, their income is quite low, they're just getting started. RSPs are not the best vehicle because they're not getting a significant tax deduction on those deposits, and their income is likely going to go up. So using a TFSA is a much more useful tool because you can always transfer that TFSA into an RSP later and get a higher deduction as your income goes up. So just little things like that.
What would be the U.S. equivalent of these types of instruments, if you know? Because there's probably going to be some folks, watching this from the United States are like, what the fuck is a TFSA?
Yeah. It's a TFSA. I actually don't know the equivalent in the States, but I believe the RSP would be a 401k.
Okay.
I think. Don't hold me to that.
Tax deferral instruments, you call them maybe.
Yeah, a tool that's tax deductible today and then taxable when you pull it out.
Yeah.
In retirement or at a later date.
Cool. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah. No, that was it.
That was it. All right. Can you give me? Because I think part of that barrier is also it's a barrier of understanding, and I think it's also. I remember when I started approaching this sort of thing. It was after I'd kind of built up a little bit of kind of confidence that I might actually be ready for this sort of thing. Like, let's talk about a life insurance policy or disability or critical illness or what have you, right? These are sort of the primary types of things I've explored beyond like TFSAs and RRSPs and things like that. But for the longest time, I was like, why should I have these things? Why should anybody even look at me for these types of things? Why would someone like you be even interested in working with me? And so that was a big barrier for me. I don't deserve these things right now. How would you propose somebody who's thinking like that kind of get over that and come and see someone like you?
It's a good question. I mean, I think that would be more of an internal type of thing to overcome, being comfortable thinking that you deserve to have a better future.
Yeah, maybe I went a little bit too deep there, but you get what I think you get what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but I think that
why shouldn't it be? Why shouldn't it be so scary? Why is it not so scary?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with that is that we're taught all these different things in school, like history and English and mathematics and whatnot. But nobody teaches us about finance, and nobody teaches us about financial planning. So I think that there's a significant disconnect in that area where people have not the best relationship with money, right? Where they think money is a problem, or money is something that's stressful, or something that is a negative thing, that it's scarce. So I think that may be something that may come along with that, whether you're ready or deserve or comfortable talking about those types of things. But that focus on really accomplishing your dreams and accomplishing your goals and building a bigger future for yourself, we're not taught that stuff. So having an expert and having somebody to guide you through that stuff is quite valuable. But I mean, in all honesty, our industry is quite broken because a lot of times it's a sales force. The advisors are commission-based advisors. Yeah. They're looking to sell products as opposed to really client first and establish a bigger picture plan and make sure that individual is reaching their goals.
I'm trying to, I guess this is kind of your opportunity to do a little bit of bragging, but it's also my opportunity to sort of understand more of what you do and sort of apply it to some of the things I already know. Can you walk me through maybe just give me an example of a client and how you helped that client? And feel free to brag.
All right. So I think that, there's a few different scenarios there, but one of the things that we focus on now that's a little different than we did 5-10 years ago is we start with cash flow. So the importance of cash flow is that the majority of people in the high net worth landscape that are earning a significant amount of money also have the capacity to overspend. So our focus on business owners, they are going to have that corporate structure. So when you're spending too much money, you're also taking too much out of the corporation, which leaves you susceptible to significantly higher tax bracket, of course, right? So that focus being leaving that money in the corporation, taking advantage of the corporate tax bracket, which is 13.5%, as opposed to taking it out, which is 47.7 here in British Columbia. So you're saving over 30% by just leaving that money in the corp and doing your planning within the corp. So to simplify that, let's say you have, $100,000 sitting in the corp, you pay 13.5%, that leaves you with $86,500. If you take that $100,000 out and let's say put into a TFSA or invest it outside, you're actually going to only have $52,000, right? So that there's a significant benefit to leaving that money in the corp.
Yeah.
Good example of that is we come across quite a few clients that have way too much money in their RSP. So they're
what's way too much? $1 million plus?
Yeah, okay. It depends on their when they're planning to retire. It depends on really what their goals are. So it really is a customized scenario. But we've seen clients up in the $5 to $6 million range of RSPs, right? So the guy, for example, is mid-50s, early 60s, still working, still taking a bunch of money out of that corporate structure. So good example of this, we'll use an example of $2 million because we have a few clients that have had that $2 million range. $2 million of RSPs, they're paying themselves a $200,000 salary. What we would do for that client is we'd say stop paying yourself a salary, stop putting money into your RSPs, and at 60, 62, 65, whatever their age bracket is, start drawing the RSP. So oftentimes the conversation with planners or with accountants, they want to maximize the deferral today and they want to maximize your RSP contribution. When you're retiring, the whole goal is not to have as much RSP money. It's just to have enough money.
Yeah. Every
dollar that is in your RSP is owned by the government to some capacity at a certain percentage. So you're essentially in business with CRA, and they decide when you pull it out how much money that they're going to own of that RSP. So what we would do then, start drawing down that RSP and try and get that money out of there at a lower tax bracket than you are today, as opposed to deferring it to age 71. You would lose your old age security clawback, and so you'd have another 15% tax on that, and then leave that money in the corp and pay 13.5%, grow it in the corporation, build up a cash value within that corporate structure, and then create a significantly higher legacy for the family and allow you to access some of that capital through leverage in the corp. So that's some of the, I know, quite technical, but the higher level planning. Results of those situations are oftentimes a couple $1 million in higher death benefit and higher estate planning, as well as significant tax savings year over year within that corporate structure and to plan in retirement.
I suspect that's sort of the kind of thing that you come across pretty often, where it's just, somebody's been coached by often their accountant, I'm sure, to put money into that RRSP, to keep dumping money into that RRSP so that they, it's their one play. Yeah. It's their one and only play.
Well, it's one of those things where accountants very, very simply are taught to maximize RSPs. Generally speaking, don't get me wrong. There's lots of good accountants out there that really are knowledgeable in the high level planning landscape. But maximize RSPs. But if you're 69 and you have several $1 million in your RSP, there's no benefit to putting money in there. You're just deferring it for 2 years and paying a higher tax bracket and losing your old age security. So if the planning's done properly, you can negate that, leave it in the corp, and actually end up with significantly higher. Another thing with RSPs is that all of them are taxed at death, at the second death. So you transfer to your spouse, but the second death they're all taxed. So if you have a $1 million RSP and you're not married, your kids are only getting half of that, 52% of it. So it's all taxed. So if you leave that in the corporate structure and you roll that into the proper vehicles, you can actually enhance that significantly and also save a significant amount of taxes.
I've got some, actually I'll ask it now, it's selfish a little bit, but I maximized I had not really bought any RSPs for a number of even my sort of higher earning years. And I finally got around to it. I guess I had enough money to do it. And so I basically had like 5 years worth of allowable RRSPs building up, or whatever you're allowed to buy year after year, just building up. And last year I just bought it all. I maximized the entire thing. And I did the same for Ariel to, again, just try and bring our taxes down. And so next year I'm going in with a much smaller allowable RSP contribution limit. We'll call it that, I guess. What should I be thinking about now? Like, it's just not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough to bring my taxes down enough that I'm not going to feel like crap paying an incredible amount of tax.
So leave it in the corp.
Leave it in the corp.
Yeah, so definitely take advantage of the corporate tax bracket, 13.5%.
But do you mean like don't just pay yourself less is essentially what you're saying, so that you have less to?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I mean, if you're paying yourself a higher income and then getting that down with putting that money into RSPs rather than taking the higher income, if you're, let's just use some fictitious numbers. If you're taking out 200 and putting 50 in RSPs, just take out 150. Yeah. Leave it in the corp. The benefit of that is the ability to grow that money in the corporation in tax efficient vehicles, take advantage of something called the capital dividend account, which allows the tax-free flow through of capital gains. So you can flow that out, which is another problem with RSPs is you lose the capital gains benefit. So capital gains, which is stock and real estate, are only taxed at 50%. So even if you have 100 grand, it grows to 200, you're only taxed on half of that money. Whereas, interest and dividends, you would pay the full tax bracket essentially. Dividends are a little different, but with the corp, you can do the same thing. So you pay capital gains on that, but you get half of that out tax-free through the capital dividend account. So it's quite a useful planning tool if it's done properly. Allows you to get some money out tax-free and allows you to take advantage of that corporate structure, not paying the tax up front.
I guess the key is plan ahead. Yeah. Plan ahead. Don't leave it till tax time.
Yeah, for sure.
Plan well ahead. I want to switch. I want to switch more to the personal side. We talked a lot about what you do. We talked a lot about some of the things that your business offers. But I want to talk about kind of the journey getting there, getting to where you are today, and then maybe touch on where exactly you are today. You were, if I remember correctly, something like 23, and you were working for a brokerage at that time, right?
Yeah. So I was actually what's called a captive agent.
We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was called Clerica at the time. So it's Sun Life, owned by Sun Life.
Okay.
And I was essentially a life insurance salesperson in that light.
You sold Clerica life insurance.
You got it. Yeah. That was 2003, right out of school, until 2005.
What brings somebody at the age of 23? I'm trying to think of the folks that I knew when I was 23. Let me tell you, they weren't working for a life insurance company or as a salesman for a life insurance company. They were working for a restaurant, or they were still in school. What the hell were you doing at a life insurance company?
Yeah, it's funny. I majored in corporate finance in school, and I had every intention to be a stockbroker, which at that time was the much...
You look like a stockbroker.
Yeah, much sexier side of the business. So, selling life insurance wasn't anything I knew anything about at the time, and I was golfing with my soccer team the manager of the agency that he worked at was golfing on the same golf course. So they phoned me Monday morning, and you can call it recruiting, but they'll phone anyone, I think, to try and get them on board. Or I shouldn't say that. I mean, not anybody, but they're looking to recruit, right?
Sure.
So I went in
find
and
good salespeople too.
Yeah, of course. So I went in and really with a focus on dealing on the financial side, dealing on the mutual fund side, and quickly learned that Clerica, when I first started, without knowing this, that their focus was purely life insurance. Like their goal is they're a life insurance sales force. So at that point, I really didn't know anything about the industry. I didn't even really know that there was any other companies in Canada that sold life insurance. Honestly, was that green. So just having that drive, there was a structure that you had to complete 25 transactions in the first 3 months to stay on board. So I was So I was quite motivated to not fail at that.
Sure.
And then so I worked there for a year and a half. And the first year I won they call it the Recruit of the Year. So the first top of sales in that first year in the industry. And then started to learn a little bit more about that industry and figure out that there was in fact other companies that existed, and that some offered some valuable benefits, that to really do the best thing for the clients, having the ability to offer several different companies was probably the best thing. I also learned more about the compensation model and learned that Clerica Sun Life actually owned the clients. So I wasn't truly an entrepreneur in building my own business, and that was important to me. So at that point, I chose to leave, and really with minimal fear about it, mainly because I didn't know any better. I think if it didn't work out, I'll go back to mom's house and hang out in the basement until I figure it out. But yeah, that was the main motivation for leaving, and the thought process in terms of I see people now that I know with Sun Life that have been there for several years, and they have families, they have other things going on. It's a much more difficult decision because you're not just looking out for yourself. You have to take care of other people, right? So it becomes more difficult.
Yeah. So you were in just sort of a very fortunate position that you had sort of a bit of a what they call a safety net, I suppose, which I can certainly relate to.
Yeah, for sure.
And you had no dependents. So it was just sort of the perfect time in your life to take that leap.
Yeah, for sure.
What was the first 6 months like of taking that leap? What did that look like? So you quit, I imagine, and then you went off on your own. What was the first 6 months like?
It was tough. I'd be lying if I said I didn't second guess the decision several times. But it was really just the determination to succeed and the hard work. I mean, there was no special sauce or anything that I did. I just, made sure I was out doing something every day and working hard. And, you do the right thing for people and you work hard, good things oftentimes happen, I find. So that was kind of the focus, and just grew from there.
How were you, I imagine you sort of hooked up with, so you became a broker, from what I understand, so you were then able to sell different products.
Yep.
So what did the process look like of going to get clients? How did you get your first client? How did you get your 5th client?
Yeah, Clerica was a little bit different because we actually had a lot of training with it. Mm-hmm. And with Clerica, you track all your numbers and all the phone calls you're making and who you're visiting, and making sure that you're focusing in the right areas and that kind of thing. As an independent, you're on your own, so it's a lonely world to start with.
You don't have any lead lists or anything like that.
You don't have anybody coming and telling you to get to work if you're feeling lazy that day. You don't have anybody checking to see if you...
I remember I had to get rid of my Xbox. I was just like, this shit ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
So I sold it, and that was it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, client base, I did a lot of different things. I mean, you send out letters. At that point, we were still cold calling, so we were cold calling clients.
How did you pick who you cold called?
We would buy lists, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, we bought lists. I then hired people to do some telemarketing.
Yeah.
What else do we do? I don't remember all of it, to be honest with you. It seems like a while ago.
Getting a sales team running is one of the toughest things, I think. I mean, I think once you do it, you're just like, well, that was easy. But for whatever reason, there's this, I find that there's some sort of this, I don't know what it is. It's been a hurdle for me to find a salesperson, put together sort of a sales funnel, a process for him to follow, figure out where he's going to get his leads, all that kind of stuff. It seems like that kind of just came, maybe because of the environment you were in at Clerica, it just was second nature to you. But how did you get to, I'm going to hire a salesperson, and that person's going to start hitting the phones?
Yeah, well, we never, I wouldn't say we really hired it, we outsourced it. So we didn't really hire an employee to do that.
Where did you outsource it to?
We just a firm, like a telemarketing firm.
Okay.
And I
Were they any good?
No, I can't tell you that it was a huge success.
Okay.
But
you did it.
We did, yeah. But we were phoning business owners as well at the time. We had a focus also on group benefits, so we did health and dental benefit plans for companies at that time. We still do that.
Yeah.
But it's not our main focus. And then we'd work with the employees and we'd work with the owners. So we'd do the financial planning and the insurance planning for the owners and the employees after we had got that group benefits plan. So that was kind of our process at that point in our business. And really it just morphed into referral-based lead generation, networking and people and
Sure.
do a good job for people. That kind of thing is how it worked. But it's up and down. You have a great quarter, and then you haven't done much marketing, so you're back on the marketing. When you're on your own, you're on your own. You're the sales guy, the marketing guy, the admin guy. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember in our first quarter of the year, we had record sales. It was fucking phenomenal. It was more than we could deal with, quite honestly. It was February, March, April, and it started to basically dive in April. So I was so busy just processing the business that was coming in. So I took the pressure off the accelerator with our marketing.
Yeah.
And then it's been just a slow climb back. I mean, I have this problem where I only look at the month before, or the month before that, right? That's how I'm comparing. If I were just to be smart and to say, okay, well, how about last year? Where were you last year?
Yeah.
I feel a lot better. But I get stuck in this, what was last month? Like, I have to beat last month. And if I don't beat last month or my best month previous to last month, that's crap, right? Yeah. How do you think about that?
Well, I was definitely in that type of mind frame. You're always driven to, exceed the previous quarter, or the previous month, and we look at. I do a program called Strategic Coach, and Strategic Coach they talk about the gap. So the gap is looking at.
Does that stand for anything?
Nope,
no,
just the gap.
Okay.
Yeah. So the gap is something that focuses on your progress, but they always want to focus on where you are today and measuring that from the past. So as opposed to measuring it from where you want to be. So when you're looking at this quarter, you want to be better from that quarter. But just like you said, if you look at last year, you're significantly ahead of that. So if you look at where you want to be, if you're driven, if you're successful, and you have a lot of things you want to achieve, you're never going to be in the winning side. You're always going to be losing. It's a mindset type structure. So you reach a certain level, you're just off to the next level. You're not actually enjoying that win and celebrating that win and actually looking at, actually we're doing really good. So if the number's 1 million and you're at 990, well, you're a heck of a lot better than the 600 you were at last year, right?
Sure.
So, the focus on the
Sounds like you're looking more forward than you are looking back. Is that correct?
For sure, right? And just measuring from previous results instead of measuring from where you want to be in the future. This last kind of 18 months in our business is a good example of that, because we've actually, we had a really busy year with significant tax changes. So we had a lot of clients that we had to get in to make sure they could take advantage of insurance structuring through a corporate environment prior to Jan 1, 2017. But
that's because there were some new rules that came down in 2017.
Yeah. So CRA came in and made some changes to the
CRA is our IRS essentially.
Canadian Revenue Agency. So this quarter of this year, our focus has purely been on like zero revenue generation and really transitioning into what areas in our business can we provide more value for clients? How can we create a significantly higher value structure for clients where we're exceeding that purely transactional type structure? And so we've done a ton of different things in software and investments in education and cash flow software and wealth planning software and really integrating that into the business at a higher level than the ones we were previously using. But when you do that, your focus is on that. It's not the marketing side, right? So,
but I feel like long term, the referrals will follow, because if you're providing more value and doing a better work for people, they're more likely to refer you. So it is almost an advertising, a marketing tactic in itself, I suppose.
Yeah, no, for sure. But when you're doing it, you're definitely, the numbers for the second quarter this year, especially, they're significantly lower than fourth quarter 2016, right?
You touched on strategic coaching, and I was talking to Maria. How would you describe me, Maria?
The simple way
Seems
is
like a mentor in my mind.
I would say that I joke that she's my work mom. So
I think she jokes that you're her work son.
Yeah. So Maria doesn't have any kids, which makes that
Well, that's weird.
Yeah. But yeah, she's somebody that I met immediately the next day, I guess, after I left Sun Life.
Yeah.
So in 2005. And I phoned the office because you need to run your business through an MGA as a broker. And so I phoned their office. I was referred to them by one of the wholesalers. From
MGA stands for?
Managed General Agency.
Okay.
So I phoned that office and I spoke to Maria. She was the brokerage manager. And it was a Friday morning, afternoon, I can't remember exactly. And I wanted to meet them on a Saturday. They thought I was a bit nuts, right? Because we don't work on Saturday. I go, well, I need to figure this out because I need a home, right? Immediately. So I'm kind of interviewing.
I've got rent to pay.
Yeah. So Maria's like, well, I'm not going to meet you, whatever, right? But her boss at the time, the owner of the company, came and met me on the Saturday downtown. At that time, I was living in Port Moody. So I went and met her downtown and signed up with at that time it was called Financial Management, and Financial Management was purchased by PPI Solutions. Couldn't tell you what year, but a few years later. And then I just started to build that relationship with Maria. She kind of, I guess, took me under her wing and supported my growth and really was a cheerleader and an advocate and a supporter. And still is, and she pushed me a lot to further my education in the financial landscape, to support my business, and I think really she just saw something that she wanted to be a part of, and so did I. I really enjoyed having her as a somebody to lean on and support me. So
you kind of found her quite serendipitously. How important do you think it is to have people like that in your life?
Yeah, I mean,
what has it sort of meant to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's mandatory to have those fans and those advocates and those people that really are your cheerleaders, And a good example, I finished my CFP, which is a certified financial planner, which I'm like, I don't really need it when I really first did it. And now our focus is on fee-for-service, high-level planning, and there's no way I could do that without certified financial planner designation, which is that higher level designation in financial planning. And 7-8 years ago, we were focused on life insurance and mutual funds, not so much higher level planning, right? I wouldn't have done that without Maria. I actually almost didn't even write the test. She's like, you got to write the test and do it. So CLU, same, chartered life underwriter, another designation that she's basically pushed me to do, and just kind of always believed in me to achieve really great things, and that push to know that I have that person that really does believe in you and supports you and knows that you can do it, kind of thing.
She mentioned that one of the big things, or the real difference makers that she's observed during the time that she's got to know you was the strategic coaching. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about that? she wasn't able to really elaborate too much on it, but I'm super, super curious about it.
Yeah, so Strategic Coach is an entrepreneurial business coaching program. So
Okay.
I'm a huge advocate of having a coach for everything. As you know, right now I'm also doing a coaching program for speaking, to do more speaking.
With Lucas, yeah?
With Lucas Matillo, yeah, who's been phenomenally helpful with speaking.
We had him on the show 3 episodes ago, 4 episodes,
Oh, did
something
you?
like that.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's been great. But just having, again, that person to guide you and help you and support you. But Strategic Coach, so I joined Strategic Coach in 2013, I believe it was. No, it might have been 12 or 13. And where I was at, I was flat for about 3 years in growth, and I had a part-time assistant.
Where were you at that sort of point, just to sort of create a benchmark here?
Revenue-wise?
Yeah, revenue-wise.
Yeah,
give or take.
our company was doing between 250 and 300,000 in revenue year over year, and we had what Coach calls reached a ceiling of complexity. So I didn't know how to grow. I was working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. I was constantly busy. I micromanaged
I am
everything.
totally at a ceiling of complexity.
Yeah.
I know for sure. I need to learn more. Tell me more. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, that's okay. And it was just one of those things where I truly didn't know how to grow, right? And so I was at a conference in Philadelphia at the time called MDRT, which is the $1 Million Roundtable, which is a global financial planning conference. And I met an individual named Michelle Hoskin, who was a consultant that worked with financial planners. So I had about $40,000 in revenue in the company, and as you know, like that number, that 250, 300, as you know, your expenses are high. You're not earning a ton of money really when you pay for everything, your office and your expenses and all the other stuff. You're not struggling, but you're not, So at that point, I hired Michelle as a consultant and flew her from the UK to do an overhaul in our business, and I joined Strategic Coach, and the total bill was about $35,000. And I remember talking to my mom on the phone and telling her about it, and she hung up on me and said, what if things go, she was crying, and she said, what if things go sideways? What if things don't work out? And I'm,
I've had these conversations with Lucas so many times where he's got this big ticket item and he just doesn't know whether he's going to pull the trigger on it. And I hear that a lot, but you did it.
So I did. I spent the money, which was at that time in my career, it was a lot of money, right?
Yeah,
it was a huge investment. It was essentially, that savings that I'd built up for a couple of years. So spent that money, brought Michelle over. She did an overhaul on the business, and then joined Strategic Coach. And our business has grown 600% since, over 600% actually, since that time. So, and really the whole course is built around delegation, unique ability, which is focusing on what you do well and delegating the rest, and building what they call a self-managed company, which allows the company to run while you're not there, and value creation. So how can you create more value in the world? How can you create more value for your team? How can you create more value for your clients? And the revenue from creating that value will intrinsically come. So it's not a transactional type structure where you need this product, I'm going to get paid to sell you this product. It's we're going to create so much value that, that's where that internal structure comes from.
Yeah.
And then the products are just byproducts of that value creation. So it's a phenomenal course. I've just switched to the 10 times program.
What's that mean, 10 times? You meet 10 times a year?
Yeah, no. So Dan Sullivan is...
Oh yeah, times. I know what you're talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so Dan Sullivan coaches the 10 times program, which he's the director, the CEO. He runs Strategic Coach. So that program's with Dan. That program's $25,000 a year, and so that one's in Toronto. So I got to go to Toronto 4 times a year. And that is the next level up of building a self-multiplying company. So really the self-managed company is built, it's running itself. Now how do we scale at a higher level and make sure that you're essentially changing as many lives as you can and helping as many people as you can, as opposed to one at a time.
I've got one more question for you. These coaching programs, I mean, even for you now, I'm sure saying 35 grand, that's a lot of money, right? Even,
Absolutely.
10, 15, 20 grand, that's still a lot of money, because you know exactly what you had to do to earn that, or how far you've had to come to be able to spend that kind of money. How do you recommend people, or how do you wrap your head around that? How did you wrap your head around that when you first, shelled out that kind of cash? How do you recommend people to do that?
Yeah, there's twofold with that one. One is you must look at it as an investment. So, I mean, we sit down with clients all the time that say, I have X amount of dollars. It doesn't matter what the number is. I have a business opportunity here, and or I can put the money and invest it with you. 99, I won't say 100, because there always is different cases, but almost 100% of the time, I will recommend that client invest in their business. And the reason being is because they're investing in themselves, they're investing in what they know, and if you really look at it as an investment instead of a cost, then it's a mindset type structure, right? So if you have 50 grand and you can invest it in your business to grow your business to earn 200 grand, that's a heck of a lot more than you're going to earn in a mutual fund making 6%
Sure.
or 8%. I can't beat that type of structure, right? It's now, I mean, you have to have balance, and it's a bigger picture conversation, but looking at that as an investment is definitely the number one piece there.
How do you take action though? For a lot of people, they'll go out and they'll go to a conference, or they'll read a book, and these aren't very good comparables, but they take in inputs, right? They learn, right? And they're good at learning, but where they fall is taking action. Do you find that these coaching programs sort of push you to take action, or does that still need to be something that you kind of have to do on your own, and how do you get there?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I mean, we deal with it with clients all the time, right? I mean, analysis paralysis, and that bigger picture, is this the right coaching program, or is there other ones that are better, or is there, all of those questions come into play. But I think for me the biggest thing is just the trust in the bigger picture, and focus on the end goal. So having that clear vision of what you're trying to accomplish and what you're really trying to do, and what are the tools and what are the programs and what are the people that speak towards that. So having those people on your side and having those programs on your side, I think when they come across and there's alignment there, and what they're trying to do is similar to what I'm trying to do, same with clients, right? Then the answer is always yes, right? If there's something where I'm trying to do this, but does this really align or correspond with the bigger picture goal, whether it's 10 years or 5 years, or then it might not be the best fit. So that's how I make the decisions. Is it a perfect science? I mean, there's things on the shelf still in my office that I want to do that I haven't got to yet. But the second thing to that is delegation. So having a team to support you with things that you're not very good at. We've just recently started outsourcing things to third-party virtual assistant companies. That has been, we're just starting, so I can't give you too much feedback on that, but that's another area of allowing you to delegate those things that you're not good at, because really we're not good at very many things, and embracing that for me was important, because I thought I was good at everything until I did coach and realized I was good at none of it.
A lot of things. Well, I quite honestly, I have like a million other questions, but the beautiful thing about these interviews is and I think I'm getting a little bit better at it, is I'm just so freaking curious about the people that I bring in, so I don't really have to rely too much on the questions, because it just sort of rolls with it. So I appreciate you making that so easy for me. At the end of the sort of interview, I like to give you an opportunity to do just sort of a quick plug. Where can people find out more about you, website, anything like that? And if you want to go ahead and do that, I'm sure people would appreciate it.
Yeah, we're actually in the process of a full rebrand. So we will have that transition done hopefully by the end of September. But currently you can find us at jrfin.com. So jrfin.com, short for JR Financial. There's a contact at the bottom of the page, so feel free to shoot us an email, ask us any questions, and happy to see if there's a good fit to work with us.
Do you have any socials or are you active on social media or anything like that?
I'm not. I don't have Facebook. I do have a Twitter account.
It was harder to research you. Yeah, but you haven't tweeted in you haven't tweeted forever, so it was hard to research you.
I have a LinkedIn account, so
okay.
LinkedIn is another one.
Cool.
But our website would definitely be the best fit, and Facebook, Instagram, don't have them. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, it's no wonder you're so successful. You don't have all these other things distracting you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Really appreciate it. If you have any questions for Jay, have any questions for me, leave them in the comment section. If you enjoyed this 45 minutes, hour that you spent with us, let us know. We would certainly appreciate that. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.